What's up, everybody? It's Rick Pino here from Get Wisdom. Are you the kind of person who is interested in learning how to build and create wealth? I'm not just talking about wealth or a little bit of resources for you and your family. I'm talking about abundance, overflow. I'm talking about wealth for you, your children, and your children's children. Are you interested in creating wealth like that? Are you that kind of person, or are you the kind of person who's not really interested in creating wealth? You just want to kind of get by. You want to just have just enough. Or maybe you're the one that's like, well, we just want to be comfortable. Which one of those kind of person or people are you? Because this training today is all about those of you who feel called to build wealth, and not just any kind of wealth, generational wealth for you, your children, and your children's children, but perhaps you just don't know where to start. Perhaps you don't really understand how it all works yet. That's exactly why I want to invite you to come hang out with me for the next few minutes in this training, because I'm going to show you exactly how to get started. And we are going to make the process of growing and building and creating wealth very simple, especially if you are a beginner. Let's get into it. Well, before we jump into the training, guys, I want to encourage you, check out my upcoming 5-day live virtual training where I'm going to be spending 5 days with you, showing you exactly how to create and sell your own digital products so that you can serve your people at a high level, so that you can learn how to start making money online. All you need is a phone and a laptop to get started. Click the link down below and join me because it's coming up right around the corner. You really don't want to miss that. So guys, let's get into the training, okay? And in today's training, I want to submit a couple of scriptures to you because I think it's really, really important that we begin to understand the correct theology whenever it comes down to the idea of creating wealth, building wealth, etc. Come with me here to the board and let's dive right on in, all right? First scripture I want to present to you and submit to you is from the book of Hosea, Hosea chapter 4, verse 6. Maybe you've heard this. Okay, and this is the Lord speaking, and he says, my people perish. Oops. Perish for lack of, you guys know it, right? Knowledge. Interesting. Let's look at this for a second, okay? So it's really, really interesting to me that so many of God's people, okay, they're like, oh yes, we believe that God wants us to be blessed. Do you believe God wants you to be rich? Well, I don't know about rich, we were going to be blessed and spiritually, but like I'm telling you guys, first of all, we must understand that when it comes to creating wealth, you cannot be conflicted about what you believe, about what God says when it comes to wealth creation. You must become convicted around what God says when it comes to building wealth for you, your children, and your children's children. In fact, the book of Proverbs tells us that a righteous man or woman leaves an inheritance for their children's children. Now, I just want to submit to you, number one, of course that's talking about a spiritual inheritance, but it's not just talking about a spiritual inheritance, okay? It's also talking about a monetary inheritance, okay? And so what I want to submit to you again is you cannot leave a job to your children's children as an inheritance, okay? So we've got to start thinking differently. And when Hosea chapter 4, verse 6 says that God's people perish for lack of knowledge, I want to submit that could it be that the reason why your finances are perishing, or maybe you feel like you can't get ahead, is because you simply lack the knowledge on how to execute in 2025 and beyond when it comes to wealth creation. Like, I want to submit to you, you must continue to watch YouTube videos like this and trainings and invest into yourself and purchase courses and check out the 5-day training, that I just told you about. Like all these different kinds of avenues, you must invest into yourself, whether it's with me or not, it doesn't matter. But the point is this, you must increase your knowledge, because I also want to submit, okay? I'm just submitting all of this for you to consider today, okay? If we perish for the lack of knowledge, then I believe that we will flourish with knowledge. So if we're perishing because we don't understand and we don't have knowledge on how a situation works, then could it be that we will actually flourish if we learn the game? And so the first thing that I want to just encourage you with is that number one, you have got to learn the language, the game, the system, the science of money, of wealth creation. And obviously stay plugged in here to my channel because I teach you how to do it from a biblical basis, right? With biblical principles. But I'm telling you this, man, could it be the reason why your financial situation is perishing is just because you simply lack the knowledge? Like, think about it like this, okay? I was talking to one of my students the other day about this, it's a silly analogy, but this is really the truth. How silly would it be if I were to walk up to you and be like, yo, how's your fax machine doing? And you're like, what? Fax machine? I'm like, yes, your fax machine. Don't you know fax machines are the number one best way to communicate with people now in 2025 and beyond? Don't you know that? And you'd be like, what in the world? No, it's not. Like, there's way better ways to communicate, right? And of course there are. Why am I telling you this silly analogy? Because what most people do when it comes to wealth, when it comes to finances, most people are trying to make a fortune in the present by making a living in the past. What does that mean? It means that most people get to the place of their financial journey and their wealth creation journey just up to the point where they can barely get by. Well, I guess I'm just gonna go to school and go to college and get a good job, and hopefully I'll just get a good job, and then maybe, God will bless me, and maybe I can climb the corporate ladder, and hopefully one day, instead of making whatever, 20 bucks, I can make 25 bucks. And then maybe one day I can make, instead of 25 bucks, maybe I can make 50 bucks an hour. That would be cool. And instead of 50 bucks an hour, maybe one day I can make like 75 bucks an hour. That'd be crazy. Like, what that mindset is doing is literally plugging you into an old system, and it's literally the same as you saying, hey, fax machines are the best way. Or what about those dial-up rotary phones, right? Dial-up rotary phones are the number one best way to call somebody in 2025. Well, those are a way to communicate, but they're not the best way. So the system that most people are on when it comes to their wealth, when it comes to their finances, when it comes to the way that they create money and create value in the earth, is they're just plugged into this old system, right? And for whatever reason, they get to the point where it's just enough to just get by. They just get to the fax machine level, right? Like 1992 level, right? And they never progress. Like, well, this is good enough and my job, and well, we got the family now, so we're just gonna just plug away at this and just hopefully Jesus is gonna help us and rescue me and help me God, right? That's what most people do. And no wonder why your financial situation is perishing. Because you haven't progressed the knowledge. You haven't learned the new game. You haven't learned the new systems. You haven't furthered your education when it comes to this stuff, okay? So I want to just submit this to you guys. Hosea chapter 4, verse 6, the people of God perish for lack of knowledge. If we perish for the lack of knowledge, then surely we will flourish when we get more knowledge. So I need at least 10 people in the comments right now, like Proverbs chapter 4 tells us, get wisdom. In fact, that's why I named my business Get Wisdom, because it's the primary thing. It's the principal thing. That's what Proverbs tells us. In all you're getting, get wisdom. In all you're getting, get understanding. In all you're getting, get knowledge. That's what Solomon encouraged us with. And I today want to echo that to you. In all of your getting, get wisdom, get understanding, get knowledge. Because as you grow your wisdom, understanding, and knowledge when it comes to the place of finances, that's the beginning of you starting your financial and wealth building journey, okay? So second scripture I want to submit to you, and then we're going to jump in. I've got a 3-part formula I'm going to give to you here in the video today. Just hang on, watch this, okay? Second scripture I want to give you. Okay, this one is very powerful. You've probably heard this before. It's Romans chapter 12, verse 2, okay? You've probably heard this, be transformed by the renewal of your mind. And it's a powerful scripture, but here's what I want to encourage you. I know we've all heard that scripture 1,000 times, and because we're so familiarized with it, a lot of times we just breeze by and we don't consider what it's actually saying here. I like what the NLT says, okay? The New Living says it like this. Let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think, okay? Again, kind of like I just said in the first part of this out of Hosea chapter 4, verse 6, you've got to increase your knowledge. Well, the second thing you've got to do is you've got to increase your mindset when it comes to wealth creation, when it comes to your finances, okay? Like if you're still in the low level of thinking that, oh, becoming a millionaire, it must be nice, but it's probably not possible for me. I would like that, but I don't even know if that's even possible. Like if you're still thinking like that, if you're still asking yourself disempowering questions like that, because that's what those questions are. Those are not empowering questions, those are disempowering questions. Instead, what you need to do is you need to change the way you think. You need to let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think when it comes to wealth creation, when it comes to your finances. And here's what you got to do. You actually need to believe that this is possible, because it is. This is possible for you. In fact, I need at least 20 people in the comments right now to drop these words. This is possible for me. You got to start thinking differently, man. And one of the ways that you can do that is stop hanging out with people who are having broke conversations. Like if you're hanging around people who are like, oh man, the price of eggs has really gone up. Oh, I can't believe it. Oh, gas is so expensive. Oh man, are you serious? Like, I can't believe you paid that much for the, if they're having these kind of broke conversations and you're around those kind of conversations all the time, guess what? You're going to be entertaining broke conversations, and those broke conversations, every disempowering word that comes out of your mouth, your ears are going to hear that. And the same way that faith comes by hearing, doubt also comes by hearing. So when you're like, oh man, the price of eggs is so expensive. Oh man, I'll never be able to afford that. When your ears hear your mouth saying those type of things, it keeps your thinking level low. But if you want to change, if you want to actually begin this wealth building journey, then guess what you need to do? You need to let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. And I would also submit by changing the way that you talk, by changing the way that you confess, right? Don't just be like, oh, we'll never be able to afford that. Oh, it must be nice. Oh, I'd love to. We'll never, but like, stop it. Stop it. If you really feel called to step into this wealth creation journey, you've got to change the mindset, man, because all wealth is created in the mind. All wealth is created in the mind first. That's literally how it works. And I have a bunch of other videos on that, but just trust me, you've got to change the way you think. Because if you're not thinking correctly about what God says when it comes to wealth creation and blessing and favor and abundance for you and your family, then it's never going to happen for you. Because you're not going to be transformed into a new person. And since you're not transformed, you're doing the same thing that you've always done in the same old patterns, and you're going to continue to get the same old results. Okay? Don't do that. All right? So now that we've got a little bit of foundation, we understand Hosea chapter 4, we perish for the lack of knowledge. So therefore, we got to get more knowledge, we got to get more wisdom, we got to get more understanding, because if we perish for the lack of it, then surely we will flourish whenever we gain it. Okay, that's number one. Number two, we have to change our mindset. We have to start thinking differently when it comes to wealth creation, because if we're not even thinking correctly about this, it's not going to be possible for us, okay? That's why most people never, ever achieve true wealth and true generational wealth, is because they just simply, they lack the knowledge and they don't think correctly about wealth, about finances, about wealth creation. Okay, but that's not you, because you're hanging out with me for another few minutes here in the training. Come with me back here to the board. I'm going to break this down for you guys. There are 3 kinds of people in the world, okay? And like I said earlier, I want to give you these 3 steps here that you need to make sure to not do step 1, not do step 2, but you need to step into step 3. Most people are in step 1. Most people are in step 2. You need to level up to step 3, because that's where real wealth creation begins. Are you guys ready? If you're ready, let me know down in the comments. Say, I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready. And come with me back here to the board. Just check this out, okay? So 3 kinds of people in the world, okay? There are debtors, okay? There are savers, and then this is where you want to be. There are wealth creators, okay? Another way that you could think about this is, let me just put this in parentheses here, okay? There is the poor or broke-minded people, okay? There is the middle class, or I call this the average person. And I don't know about you, but I don't feel called to be average. I want to be above average, okay? I want to be the exception. And there are wealthy people. This is where you want to be, obviously, because you're here in the training with me today, okay? So guys, there's three kinds of people in the world. There are debtors, there are savers, there are wealth creators, okay? So how does this work, okay? Well, let's just start with debtors, okay? Debtors, where these are broke-minded people, okay? And this is the worst place possible that you could be, because debtors or poor people or broke-minded people, okay? And by the way, when I say poor people, I'm not saying people who are, born into, a third world nation and they're born into poverty. I'm talking about people who have a poor mindset, okay? Like those, especially those of you guys and gals who live here in the West and you were born with all this opportunity, don't allow the mindset of the broke and poor, the poor mindset, the broke mindset to get you, because if it does, you're going to become a debtor, okay? What is a debtor? A debtor is somebody who is in really terrible consumer debt, okay? Why is this really, really important? Because as a debtor, okay, let's just say this is your baseline here, okay? And let's just call this baseline 0, okay? Now debtors, unfortunately, they are in terrible consumer debt, okay? And what they have done is they've gone into debt buying really dumb purchases, okay? Things that they couldn't afford, things that they didn't need, maybe things to impress other people. And now because they don't know how money works, because they don't know how wealth creation works, they're just drowning in this terrible consumer debt. And one of the reasons why having a broke or poor mindset and being a debtor is so, it's so dangerous, because those purchases that you make, okay, that you think you're making one time, maybe you buy whatever, you buy that purse on a credit card that you couldn't afford and you didn't need, but you really want to impress somebody. Or maybe you went on that vacation that you couldn't afford and it wasn't quite time, but I'm going to do it anyway. Let's put it on the credit card, okay? What happens now, because you can't afford it, because you don't know how money works, because you don't know how wealth creation works, you didn't just pay for those liabilities, because that's what debtors really do. Debtors are buying more liabilities than they are buying assets, okay? A liability costs you money, an asset makes you money, okay? You cannot build wealth when you have way more liabilities than you do assets. You just can't. And what the debtors do, what the broke or poor-minded people do, is now they're swimming in all of this consumer debt. And here's why it's dangerous. Because you didn't just make the purchase one time. Now you have to pay like capital interest on this, compounded interest on this, over and over and over and over every single month. Before you know it, that whatever $5,000 vacation that you put on a credit card that you shouldn't have gone on because you couldn't afford it, now it didn't just cost you $5,000. Now you're making like the minimum payments, but oh my gosh, the interest is building up. And now you're like, oh my gosh, the credit card is insanely maxed out and we don't owe $5,000 now. Now we owe $6,200 or whatever the number is, right? And this is how debtors, they're in the most terrible financial situation, period. So what you need to do is make sure that whatever you do, don't become a debtor. Okay, do not become a debtor. And by the way, for those of you Christians who are on here like, the borrower is always a slave to the lender, so don't go into any debt. Well, I have news for you, okay? And I'm going to talk about it here in a second. Not all debt is created equal, okay? Of course, you don't want to go into bad consumer debt where you purchase liabilities. here in a moment, I'm going to talk about why debt is incredible and how you should use it to purchase assets. But before I get ahead of myself, debtors, man, this is the slowest, hardest way in the wealth creation journey, because obviously, again, okay, let me get my trusty little laser here. Debtors, this is really terrible, because not only are you not at zero, where's my laser? There we go. Not only are you not at zero, you are below zero, right? You're not even at zero, man. You're below zero. And obviously, this is not the way to create wealth, okay? So let's talk about savers now, okay? Savers, or the average middle-class person, okay? Maybe they don't have nearly as much consumer debt. And savers, in fact, what savers do? Savers just want to get right here. And savers, by the way, there's a whole entire movement on the internet where people get online and they're like, we're debt free, woohoo! You know, it only took us, 5 years and we paid off a couple $100,000 of debt. We're debt free, woohoo, woohoo. And everyone's like, yes, awesome, you're debt free. Do you know what the problem with this is? Debt free just means you're back to zero. Like, obviously, this is a better place to be at than being a debtor. But what savers do, or what middle-class people do, is middle-class people think that the purpose of money is to simply pay their bills on time and make sure they don't get into any terrible debt. Okay, now, obviously, it's a much better play than being a debtor or being someone with a broke or poor mind when it comes to this, right? But guys, as a saver, or just as an average everyday person, these are the kind of people right here, like, we're debt free, woohoo, we're gonna make more money, and we're gonna climb that corporate ladder so that we can hopefully have enough to pay our bills on time and just live comfortable. But the problem with living comfortable is that if you only have just enough for you and your family, how are you gonna take care of anybody else? Like I said earlier, if all you have is a job, how are you going to leave an inheritance for your children, and let alone your children's children, right? Like, I want to submit this to you, and if you're taking notes, write this down, or maybe drop it down in the comments, okay? Most people who are savers, they just have a job, okay? Nothing wrong with having a job, but unfortunately, y'all, if you don't know this yet, job just stands for just over broke, okay? Yes, they're not swimming in bad consumer debt, but they're just back to zero, man, right? And here's what I want to tell you. One stream of income is too close to zero streams of income. The middle class, okay, the average everyday person, why are they in like a really dangerous place? You don't want to find yourself here where like your only stream of income is your job. You're just over broke, that you have to go clock in for 9 to 5, 4, 5, 6 days a week, okay? Why is this a very dangerous place to be in? Because unfortunately, you are just one crazy economic thing happening. You are one bad month in the company away. You are one bad situation or accident away from being down to zero streams of income. And this goes for everybody on like entry-level jobs, like the barista and the taco maker, the hamburger flipper, and nothing wrong with if that's where you're at right now. But this goes for everybody from that level all the way up to like C-suites. People who make, 6 figures in their job, okay? If it's just a job, even if you're making 6 figures and they're paying you whatever, 100, 150K, and you're like, woo, I'm making 6 figures. You're one bad month away, you're one accident away, you're one layoff away from being down to zero streams of income. So guys, the aspiration shouldn't just be like, oh, I just want to be average. I want to have just enough. No. Let me ask you this question, okay? When it comes to your health, all right? Do you want to have the best health that you could possibly have? Or do you want your health to, I just want my health to be good enough? When it comes to the happiness and fulfillment and, your children feeling loved and supported, do you want them to have that to the utmost? Do you want them to be overflowing with love and fulfillment and joy in their lives? Or do you want your children to, I just want them to feel just loved enough? When it comes to your relationships, maybe your marriage, do you want to have the most thriving, incredible, like year after year, it just gets better and better and better marriage? Or would you rather just have a marriage it's just good enough? Then why in the world are we religious when it comes to money? Like, I could ask you all those things, and the answer is obvious. We want to have the best of the best of the best in every one of those situations. We want to always be pushing for more. So why not in your finances? You go up to most Christians like, hey, you could ask them all those questions. Then you ask them like, what about your finances? And they're like, when it comes to money, we have to be really careful because we don't want to get greedy. And, the love of money is the root of, like, stop being religious. I don't know about you, but when it comes to wealth creation, just the same way, in my health, in my spiritual walk, in my marriage, with my family, that I always want to be pushing and driving and pressing for more, I also want that in my finances. It like makes no sense to be wishy-washy and to be hypocritical. Oh, we want it over here, but we don't want it over there because God forbid, oh my gosh, too much money. We won't even have to trust God anymore. And oh, the love of money is the root of all evil. Like, you're being religious. Don't find yourself in the place of being a debtor or someone who has a broke and poor mindset. Please, please, please do not stop as a saver or a middle class or an average person. Do you really want to just be average? I hope not. No, because you are hanging out with me for a few more moments here because you're interested in learning how to create wealth, especially if you're a beginner. So what's the third thing that you got to do? This is the zone you want to find yourself in because, my friend, this is the zone where you can actually create wealth. Okay, come back with me here to the board and let's talk about it. So we've talked now about debtors. Okay, We've talked now about debtors. Talked now about savers. Okay, why is it? Obviously, it's better than being a debtor, but savers, we are debt-free. You're just back to zero, right? What you really want to do is you want to become a wealth creator, okay? You want to be thinking and making moves and acting like the wealthy act, like we act, okay? Why? Because wealthy people understand that we don't work for money, okay? And you might be sitting here going, wait, what? Of course you work for money. You go to your job and you trade your time for dollars. If you have a job, okay, and if you're still trading your time for dollars, then yes, you work for money. And that's why building wealth feels so hard to you. Right? Oh man, making more money is so hard. Of course it is, because you're literally trading your time, your effort, and your life to try to make a little bit of money. But wealthy people, we understand that wealth is not created with our time and our effort. That's the lowest level of wealth creation. Like, let's go work harder, okay? It's not about just working harder. Diligence and hard work is important, but that's the lowest level of wealth creation. What you need to do is learn how to work smarter. Don't perish for the lack of knowledge. You need to get more knowledge, more wisdom, more understanding so that you can leverage that wisdom, leverage that knowledge, leverage that understanding, so that way you no longer create money through your time and effort and the sweat of your brow. Now you create money by serving people with your creativity. Now, let me submit this to you. I talk about this from time to time here in the trainings, okay? But when your time and effort is connected to your dollar, obviously building wealth feels hard because you only have so much time and you only have so much effort. And here's the punchline. As long as your earning potential is connected to something that is limited, like time and effort, guess what else will be limited? Your earning potential. But when you disconnect your time from your dollar and you connect your earning potential to something unlimited, like creativity, okay, and you start thinking of really cool ways because you're growing in knowledge, you're growing in wisdom, you're growing in understanding, so you're no longer perishing, you're thinking differently, not just like, oh man, I'm struggling financially, I need to go get another job. No, You don't need another job. You need some new skills. Okay, so how do wealth creators build wealth? Well, wealth creators, okay, come back with me here and let me show you here. Debtors are obviously in bad consumer debt. Okay, remember what I said earlier, not all debt is created equal? Well, obviously, if you use debt to purchase liabilities that you have to continue to pay for over and over and over, that debt is terrible, of course. Okay, but wealth creators, what do? Wealth creators, there are two specific things that we do in order to build wealth. Number one, and I'm just going to do like this, okay? Number one, we start businesses, okay? I will tell you this right now. The whole entire world goes around on business and sales. Whether you like it or not, the whole entire earth literally goes around on business. That's how God set this whole entire planet up. Like the things that you have in your life, you purchase them from a business. The problems that you have in your life, you get them solved by a business. The needs that come up in your life, you get those needs fulfilled. Obviously not talking about emotional needs or, spiritual needs, but I'm talking about needs like, I need to go to the grocery store. I have a toothache and I need to get it fixed. The soles on my tennis shoes ran out. I need to go get a new pair. What are you doing? You're getting your needs solved by businesses. Okay? So number one, what we do as wealth creators is we start businesses, but number two, we leverage good debt. Okay? Now remember what I said. We are debt-free. Woohoo! Congratulations, you're back to zero, right? But when you understand how to use debt to create wealth, okay, everything begins to change. Now, for instance, there's a reason why Amazon is sitting on literally billions of dollars of liquid cash right now. And guess how they buy things? With debt. Apple is literally sitting on more liquid cash than the entire GDP of America. I just read this the other day. It's insane. Apple has more cash on hand than all of America combined. And guess how Apple's going to make its purchases this year? By leveraging debt. Why? Because wealth builders, we understand that when you can leverage debt not to buy liabilities, but to buy assets. Remember, a liability is something that you purchase that you have to pay for over and over and over again. It costs you money, but an asset is something that you purchase. It's an investment that pays you over and over and over. Let me break this down for you because not all debt is created equal. Check this out, okay? Let's say you go to the bank and you borrow $100, okay? Now let's say the bank is going to charge you a 5% interest on this $100 that you borrow. But what if you were to take that $100, okay, and you were to invest that $100 into an asset that paid you 10%, okay? Let's do the math here, okay? Now, obviously, you still owe the bank the $100 back plus their 5%, okay? So you owe the bank $105, okay? But here's the cool part. When you leverage debt, okay, in a smart way, in a wise way, and you're making, in this situation, 10% on that $100 that you borrowed, yes, you still owe the bank back their 100, yes, you still owe them back their 5, but guess what? You have just made $5 essentially for free. Because that's the difference, right? That's the difference. If you can borrow $100 and there's a 5% interest on it, but you can invest the $100 and make 10% interest, that spread there of an extra 5%, or in our case, it'd be an extra $5, you just made that money for free. Like, who in the world wouldn't want to get in on this? Because obviously, these are very small numbers. But when you start thinking bigger, playing bigger, working smarter, grow your wisdom, grow your understanding, grow your knowledge now, and disconnect your time from your dollar and start using creativity, and you start leveraging debt in a healthy way, now building wealth becomes very, very easy. Right? Because the cool part is yes, I borrowed this money, and religious people are going to be like, oh, the love of money is the root of all evil, and the borrower is the slave to the lender. Yes, but what if you were to invest wisely, not into a liability? What if you were to invest into an asset? Okay, and the asset makes you that 10%. My gosh, man, who wouldn't want to make some free money? You're literally borrowing somebody else's money to go make some free money. And the cool part is you're going to pay them back and pay them back their interest. But because you made a wise investment and you purchased an asset, now you just made free money by using your creativity instead of your muscles, instead of your time, instead of your effort. Is this making sense? Drop some fire emojis down in the comments if you guys and gals are getting this, okay? So here's what I want to encourage you guys with. When it comes to the beginning of your wealth building journey, whatever you do not become a debtor. Do not go into bad consumer debt buying liabilities, okay? What is a liability? It's a purchase that you make that costs you money over and over and over and over and over, okay? Don't do that. You're never going to get ahead by doing that. And that's what most people do, okay? What you also don't want to do is you don't want to just be average. You don't want to just be the middle class, right? Well, I just want just enough to get by. Woohoo, we're debt free. Well, congratulations, you're back to zero, right? You don't want to just be a saver. Let's try to save our way to wealth. Do you know how hard it would be to save your way to wealth? I'll just end with this, okay? The lie that most people believe when it comes to saving money, and we've all heard this, a penny saved is a penny earned, right? A dollar saved is a dollar earned, right? But that's not true. Because in this day and age, a dollar saved is a dollar that is depreciated. A penny saved is a penny that is depreciated. Every single, piece of income that you save and you're trying to save your way to wealth, every single day it's becoming worth less and less and less and less and less because of inflation. So I don't know about you, but that's almost like going backwards. No, it's not bad consumer debt, but you're going backwards because your dollar is under inflation. It's becoming worth less and less every day. So what do you got to do? You must step in to this reality as a wealth creator so that you can start building wealth for you, your children, and your children's children. Well, Rick, how am I going to do that? I'm glad you asked. I'm going to remind you one more time. The first thing you're going to do, you're going to learn how to start a business. Okay? And the second thing you're going to do, you're going to get your mindset right. You're going to allow God to transform you into a new person by changing the way you think about debt. Okay? You're going to start businesses that serve people, that solve problems, and then you're going to learn wisdom, understanding, and knowledge on how to leverage debt so that you can begin to build real wealth for you, your children, and your children's children. Guys, listen, if you've made it this far and you've got some value, click that link down below. Join me for my upcoming 5-day live virtual training. I am going to be literally sharing with you the game on how you can, with a phone and a laptop, you can literally start creating amazing digital products with the knowledge, experience, expertise that you already have. You can turn them into digital products or educational resources like courses, ebooks, mentorships. You do the work one time, and then they have the potential to pay you over and over and over again. I'm going to show you everything, exactly how it works, step by step. Click the link down below. Join me in the upcoming training. It's coming up right around the corner. Thank you guys and gals so much. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel here if you want to continue to see more content like this from me, and we'll see you in the next training.